undefeated three-division world champion who simultaneously held the WBA super title at super featherweight, the WBA regular title at 135 lightweight, the WBA regular title at junior welterweight 140-pound division, superstar boxer Gervonta Tank Davis, 27 wins, no loss, no draw, 25 big wins by way of knockout. He is 28 years of age, 5'5" with a 67-inch arm reach, says that when he goes to welterweight, he wants to face off against undefeated three-division world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, currently the reigning WBO World Boxing Organization welterweight world champion, who is widely considered by many to be the #1 best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. That's Terence Bud Crawford, 38 wins, no loss, no draw, 29 big wins by way of knockout. He is 35 years of age, 5'8" with a 74-inch arm reach. Now, Gervonta Tank Davis, this came after Gervonta Tank Davis was asked about, who he think will win between Terence Bud Crawford and a close friend of his in the biggest fight in the welterweight division and in all of boxing for undisputed welterweight showdown between Errol the True Spence Jr., undefeated, unified three-belt WBC, WBA, IBF welterweight world champion, who's widely considered to be top 2, if not #1, definitely top 5 pound-for-pound best fighters in the world. Errol Spence Jr. is 28 wins, no loss, and no draw, 22 big wins by way of knockout. He is 32 years of age, 5'9.5" with a 72-inch arm reach, to which Gervonta Tank Davis, he stated that Errol Spence is a man with an iron shield and Terence Crawford is a man with a glass shield. I know what's going to happen there. Errol Spence is going to beat Terence Crawford. It's not my opinion of what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen when they meet up against each other, right? And then he was asked, where did he see his career ending at? How high, what weight class? He said that he's definitely going to 140 again, where he won the title against Mario Barrios. And he says that he's going to go to 147, and he already has fighters in mind, right? And one of his coaches said, yeah, we see some fighters, but don't make no mention of no names. And then Gervonta Tank Davis said, no, I see fighters. I have fighters in my scope. He says, as a matter of fact, I want to get Terence Crawford. I want to get his blank up out of there. I want to fight Terence Crawford and get him up out of there, right? So that sound, Gervonta Tank Davis, he went on record. He stated that he has no friends in the sport of boxing, right? And then he states that, it's about his legacy moving forward. He has 2 fights scheduled in 2023. He has a fight January 7th against WBA super featherweight world champion, undefeated Dominican star boxer Hector Garcia. That's January 7th in Washington, D.C. And then he has a fight coming up, which looks like it could be in April, possibly in May, against undefeated lightweight junior welterweight Mexican superstar title contender King Ryan Garcia, who has a record of 23 wins, no loss, no draw, 19 wins by way of knockout. He is 24 years of age, 5'10" with a 70-inch arm reach. So Gervonta Tank Davis, he says, after these next up to coming fights, that is on from there, right? We know that he had the spat with undefeated Olympic silver medalist, 2-division world champion, former unified WBC, WBO super featherweight world champion, superstar boxer Shakur Stevenson, as well as his ongoing feud with undisputed lightweight world champion, superstar boxer Devin the Dream Haney, right? So he stated that he wants to fight either one of them after his upcoming fight. But when he goes to welterweight, he wants to fight Terence Crawford and get Terence Crawford up out of there. Now, I'm going to say this is not truly realistic. And the reason I'm saying it's not realistic that it'll ever come to fruition for Gervonta Tank Davis or Terence Crawford is simply because Terence Crawford is 35 years of age. Terence Crawford is also looking at this undisputed match. He has a fight coming up December 10th in his hometown, Omaha, Nebraska, against Armenian Russian star title contender in David Avanesian. That's December 10th on BLKPrime.com. Go to BLKPrime.com and you can see Terence Crawford versus David Avanesian. With that said, Terence Crawford has Errol Spence Jr. in his sights. That's the fight that he has his focus on. It's the biggest fight in the sport of boxing. Okay. And so with that said, the fight didn't come to fruition this year as many people expected, including Terence Crawford and Errol Spence himself. But they both have their sights set on facing each other in the early part of 2023 to truly clarify who's the best welterweight in the world, who's the best fighter in the world. So at 35, Terence Crawford has made it clear his plans is to, after he fights Errol Spence, he's going to go up to 154, and he wants to face off against three-time unified, now undisputed junior middleweight world champion superstar boxer Jermell Lyons Only Charlo. So his focus is to face Jermell Charlo after he fights and beats Errol Spence, according to Terence Crawford's plans. Okay, so if that was to be the case, he's going to move up to 154. He's not going to be at 147 for much longer. Gervonta Tank Davis right now is campaigning at 135, and he has big fights and scores to settle in and around his weight class, meaning that he has to fight and beat Ryan Garcia, which is no guaranteed easy task. What I think Tank Davis is going to win that fight. Then he has to fight and beat Devin Haney and Shakur Stevenson and a few other fighters at 140 before going to 147, unless Gervonta Tank Davis has plans to, after Ryan Garcia, to leapfrog up to 147. But even then, Terence Crawford won't be at 147. By the time he fights Hector Garcia and Ryan Garcia this year, Errol Spence and Terence Crawford are going to fight in 2023 as well. Okay, so he has 2 fights lined up for 2023. I keep saying this year. For 2023, Gervonta Tank Davis has 2 fights lined up with Hector Garcia and then with Ryan Garcia. Hector Garcia and Ryan Garcia in 2023. So he won't be ready to fight until the end of the year, which Terence Crawford, Errol Spence are going to fight. And if it's a close fight, we could possibly expect a rematch for Errol Spence and Terence Crawford. It might be a 2-fight deal. Who knows, right? But again, like I said, I don't see that fight coming to fruition. Now, as far as it goes competition-wise, right, I think that, Terence Crawford is just too much for Gervonta Tank Davis. He's big. He's 5'8". He's 3 inches taller. He has a 74-inch arm reach, means he has a 7-inch arm reach advantage over Gervonta Tank Davis. He's versatile. He fights predominantly in the southpaw stance, but he has versatility. He could fight in the orthodox stance. And more importantly, Terence Crawford, he has power in both hands, okay? And he could be very slick. He could box on the outside if he so chooses. He could box on the inside, but he has power in both hands, okay? So he's going to give you angles and looks that is going to make it very difficult for Gervonta Tank Davis to adjust to, and especially since Gervonta Tank Davis is a very, very slow starter, right? He likes to calculate and compute all the information he needs to make the adjustments to get his opponents out of there. And when he's dealing with opponents that have fundamentals and extremely long arms and are taller than him and can box, he struggles to, well, not really struggle, but, he takes his time and he loses rounds, right? And he's behind on the scorecards like he was Mario Barrios. He was, some people thought it was even with Leo Santa Cruz when he fought, and they have extremely long arms. They're wiry frames. They don't have nowhere near the power Terence Bud Crawford has, okay? They have, boxing ability, but they're not on the level of Terence Crawford, and they can't give him the looks that Terence Crawford can give him, right? Now, Gervonta Tank Davis, when you have the power he has, the ultimate equalizer, he always has a chance. So you can't count him out in this situation, this scenario. But, that's an uphill battle beating Terence Bud Crawford, with his style and his limited size, right? Manny Pacquiao was 5'5" with a 67-inch arm reach like Gervonta Tank Davis, but he has much more faster and active feet than Gervonta Tank Davis does, which allow him to close the gap. And he doesn't, Manny Pacquiao is not a slow starter. He's a very fast starter. So that will work against Gervonta Tank Davis as far as points and being down on the cards. But it would definitely be an explosive, interesting, big fight for both guys, for sure. It would be a legacy fight. Terence Crawford wouldn't get much credit, unless Gervonta Tank Davis started making noise at 140. beating Gervonta Tank Davis. Gervonta Tank Davis will get tons of credit beating Terence Bud Crawford, though. So we got to see how this plays out January 7th and April or May against Hector and Ryan Garcia. So all I got for y'all. It's your boy Blue. Peace.
Alicia Baumgartner, you're watching Blue Bud Sports TV. Wow.